Amazing, ain't it? Just look at this gate. It's like nature meant for us to build a Stera right here.
Stera. I like it.
So there's a pretty good chance, if you're watching this video, that you're a lot like me and Monster Hunter World is your first Monster Hunter. And that can be intimidating, because Monster Hunter has a reputation for being complex and requiring dozens of hours to fully understand. A lot of that may be over-exaggerating, at least for this game, which I think does a pretty good job introducing you to the game in an easy way, and then ramping up the challenge. But it's still a game that feels daunting at times, and there's lots of little tricks and tips the game doesn't really tell you, or tells you poorly. So to help out you fellow Monster Hunter newbies, here's some advice I would have found helpful when I first started Monster Hunter World. The first thing the game asks of you is to pick out a weapon, and you start with a selection of all major weapon types in the game. The game works less like a typical grinding game like Destiny, where there are hundreds of weapons, each with different stats, but otherwise all feel kind of the same to use, and it's more like Bloodborne, where there's only a handful of weapons, all with their own unique feel. The big difference with Monster Hunter, though, is that you don't put points into leveling up your character and their stats, you just have to worry about leveling up your gear. This means that every weapon is viable from the start, and the one you use will be dependent on your personal preference and skill with it. So make sure to visit the training room, something that the game doesn't really do a great job telling you about. You can access it by talking to the palico in your room. It's a stress-free way to practice moves and even gives you some basic combos. Now, if you're looking for a recommendation, stick with the beginner weapons: the greatsword, longsword, sword and shield, dual blades, and hammer. The combos and mechanics are meant to be simple for beginners, compared to the far more complex weapons like the charge blade or gun lance, which require hours to get the hang of, along with trips to outside resources like video tutorials and the wiki. Seriously, you'll probably actually want to spend a lot of time on that wiki. But the great thing about weapons not being tied to character stats is there's no reason you can't just switch to a completely different weapon 30 hours in if you're looking to try something a little more complex. Monster Hunter really tries to capture the feel of being a hunter, which means there's a lot of preparatory rituals you'll want to do before every hunt. You'll want to buy and craft basic resources like potions, make sure your armor and weapons are up to snuff, and visit the canteen for a nice meal bonus. The early stages of the game aren't too demanding that you won't need to think too hard and specific. As long as you have a decent supply of basic items, you'll be fine. You don't need to get too picky with armor as long as the defense rating is high. And you'll always be fine picking the chef's choice option at the canteen, which tailors the meal to the quest. The late game is where you're going to want to start thinking a little more strategically, with monsters that will kick your ass if you're not prepared. The Monster Field Guide gives you all sorts of important information, like what kinds of attacks the monster does, and what elements and ailments it's weak to. Bringing more specific items like antidotes and null berries to counter effects becomes necessary. Picking a weapon with the right element, and picking armor with the right defense towards elements is more crucial. So another great thing to do is make loadouts. It's easy to miss, but you have the ability to create specific loadouts for equipment, items, and meals. I find creating and then naming a loadout after a particular monster cuts out a lot of that prep time. When returning from a hunt, there's also numerous shops and stations back at the hub world of Astera that you'll want to remember to check in on. Always check in with the ecological research field to add more data to your Monster Field Guide. You'll want to check in with the resource center to turn in any completed bounties, and always make sure your registered bounties list is full. Bounties, after all, are the main way you obtain armor spheres, which you need for upgrading. Don't forget to collect your harvest from the Botanical Research Center before the harvest box gets full. By the way, if you don't have anything specific you want to cultivate, you can't go wrong with honey, which lets you easily stockpile mega potions. There may not be much reason to visit your room at the beginning of the game, which made me kind of forget it was there, but once you unlock the Tail Rider Safari, you can access it from there, so remember to start visiting so you can always be sending out palicos and collecting rewards. Okay, now let's get into some more specific tips. The meal boost is great because it gives you a sizable boost to health and stamina, But if you faint during a hunt, you lose that boost, which makes the rest of the fight a lot tougher and can kinda be demoralizing. You can regain back your health boost though through nutrients, so it always helps to have some on hand. For getting back stamina, you can use rations or cook some meat with this cute little minigame. Just don't mess up the timing or you'll burn your food and the boost won't be as strong. Here's a hot tip: if you have items you always want to craft like nutrients, toggle auto crafting and the game will make it for you whenever you have the materials. Of course, when you're out hunting your prey, you'll want to improvise and use your surroundings. Creatures like paratoads shoot a mist of paralysis when hit, and flashbugs can blind nearby enemies. Just be careful because you can be hit as well. There's also the environment itself. Leaping off a ledge gives you an opportunity to mount a monster for high damage. Certain walls, like ones with giant mushrooms, can act as springboards for cool attacks. There are tons of ways to use the environment to your advantage and make your hunts easier. Hunting down monsters so you can make some sweet pants is a lot of the drive in Monster Hunter, so make sure to take advantage of the wish list and put any gear you want on it. The wish list will break down exactly what materials you need and will even hint where to find them. You'll get handy notifications when you found a material for a piece of gear and when it's ready to build, saving you a lot of trouble of checking in at the smith every time. With each area of the game, you'll start with one campsite, and throughout the story, you'll get access to a second one. However, there are a total of 4 in each area, and it's up to you to find the rest. You can search for yourself, or you can cheese it and join a quest with another player who has already found one, and then you in turn will find it.
I think we could build the camp here. Let's ask the head honchos.
After that, you'll get a special bounty you need to complete, and then the camp is yours. Throughout the story, you'll be given a handful of optional quests, and while you'll undoubtedly do some of them, I want to stress that it's within your benefit to do most, if not all of them. A lot of these quests get you fantastic rewards, like new items to cultivate at the Botanical Research Center, or new equipment like mantles. Even the terrible egg quests are worth doing for the new canteen ingredients. Not all of these quests instantly appear at the quest board. Some of them you'll have to find NPCs with an exclamation point, so keep an eye out for these when walking around. Hope you find some of these tips and tricks helpful for you Monster Hunter newbies. If you're a Monster Hunter expert watching this video, you undoubtedly have dozens of tricks and advice of your own, so why not leave some of them in the comments and help out your fellow Monster Hunters. Happy hunting, everyone!
Cheers!